Hey, welcome back to another weekly Wealth Walk. I want to share with you how I handle doubts, fears, worries, right? And I talk about this in another video I'm doing this week, but this is something that I go through also, and I want to share with you the tools that I use to handle it. Okay, so stay tuned. I hope this is beneficial to you. It's been a key to my success. I'm excited to share it with you. All right, welcome back to another weekly Wealth Walk. So these weekly Wealth Walks is about me sharing my progress, giving you behind the scenes look at what I'm doing, the actual financial moves, business moves that I'm making. Because again, there's a lot of gurus. I kind of consider myself a bit of an anti-guru. And I want to share with you, like, what does it look like behind the scenes? Because so many of these people don't. So, what I want to talk about today is an exercise I went through this week. And it's related to like doubt, worries, concerns, fears with your goals. Okay. Every normal person has that. You've got that voice of like, what if it doesn't work? All this kind of stuff, right? Or all the fears or things that could go wrong. All of that. I have those things as well. And I think that that's a normal part of like, okay, I'm dealing with new territory, right? Now, the first thing is I like to get clear on what is it that I'm actually dealing with. Right? So let's look at a couple of definitions here. Give me a like or a comment if you have ever experienced fear or doubt in relation to your goals. So let's look at the definition of doubt. A feeling of uncertainty or a lack of conviction. Okay, that's doubt, a feeling of uncertainty. So doubt is like uncertainty. I'm not certain on something. Certainty, like I know within the depths of me that something is going to happen. I know that's not doubt, that's certainty. The opposite of doubt would be certainty. Doubt is a feeling of uncertainty. Therefore, the lack of doubt would be a feeling of certainty. Lack of conviction. I'm convinced of something, right? Like I believe I'm on that side now, right? So that's doubt. This doubt word originates from Middle English, from Old French, which goes back to Latin. It means hesitate. Hesitate, right? Hesitate. What is that like when you hesitate? And you're not moving. You're stuck. You're kind of frozen for a minute. You've ever hesitated before? You were gonna, and then you started thinking, I don't know if I should do this. I don't know if that's gonna work, and then you freeze, right? So that's doubt. The other one I want to look at is fear. Fear, an unpleasant emotion caused by the belief that someone or something is dangerous, likely to cause pain or a threat. To be afraid of someone or something as likely to be dangerous, painful, or threatening. So that's fear. It's basically you're worried that something or someone is going to impose pain, threat of loss, etc. And it's something you want to avoid. So you have fear. Okay, now if we get into where this word originated from, it traces all the way back to Dutch and German, right? It goes to calamity, danger, then it goes into frighten, and then revere. Revere would be like respect, like reverence for something, right? And then it goes into danger. Okay, so that's doubt and fear. Hey, you want to see a magic trick? Get a copy of my book, Blueprint to Financial Freedom. I know it's in front of my chest and my face because I want you focusing on the book and not me for a moment before you go back to focusing on me and the content. Right? So in the context of like wealth building, entrepreneurism, all of the things that I'm doing, okay, there's goals. Right? So goal is something that let's not beat around the bush. I made it up. It's something where I'm like, I'm gonna decide I want to do this in the future. And that's a goal. Right? Completely made up. There's no basis of reality in it other than I imagine it happening. That's what I would like to see in the future. It's not like it's gonna happen or that it's predetermined or any of that. It's like that's completely made up. So on this side, we have a goal. On this side, we have a doubt or a fear. Now, the goal is completely made up. The doubt or the fear is also completely made up. Both of them being imagined future conditions that aren't here. They don't exist yet. Okay? There's the conversation of possibility, probability, sure. But do either of them in the current present tense exist? No. So they're both made up. Who made both of them up? Okay, now this one's important. With my goals at this point in my life, I made them up. It wasn't always the case, right? There was a point in my life, a couple years back where my goals weren't really my own goals. It was what I heard from other people. It's like, other people in society or influencers, whoever, saying this is important, you should want to do this. And I'm like, that must be what we do. And I was being a sheep and I would follow it, right? So at a certain point in my life, my goals were made up by others and I didn't realize that. So it had this influence over me that was external that I didn't really have control over, knowledge over, right? And so that was something that I was like, okay, this is my goal. And it really wasn't my goal. Okay. So the goal can be from self or others. Same thing with the doubt or fear. I can have doubt from self or others, right? So my own self-doubt, I've created them, right? I look at all of the things that I'm worried about and concerned about, and that's my own making. I've created that doubt or that fear. Others, someone else put something in my ear, in my world, in my mind that they are doing intentionally to try and make me afraid, right? I want you to realize the difference there, okay? Number one, I do it. Now, if I do it, it's still not a good thing, right? It's not like, oh, it's okay to poison yourself because you're the one doing it, versus if someone else poisons you, they're going to go to jail for murder, right? Like either way, you got poisoned. Okay, for me, it's almost a little bit worse if it's myself, because I'm like, why would I be doing that to myself? If someone else did it, okay, like not good. They've got what's coming to them too, but at least I wasn't the one doing it. Okay, but when someone else is putting doubt and fear in your world, I realize when this happens, and doesn't often happen, that is their intention. That is their intention. Their intention is to cause fear. Their intention is to make me doubt myself. Their intention is to make me feel bad. Their intention is to give me uncertainty. That is who they are as a person deep down on the inside. They have a wrinkly, nasty, black heart. Because nobody goes into another person's life and says, I want to make that person fearful. I want to make that person doubt themselves. I want to make that person feel small. That is the worst of the worst when it comes to the characteristics of a human being. Okay? Even when someone's in the wrong, right? I have a kid. The show of virtual hands or likes if you have a kid. They mess things up. That's part of it. If you have a kid and you're like, why do they mess things up? It's because you have basically, until a certain age, you have a physically and mentally hindered individual. Like they're not there yet. They're going to mess things up. So you can be like, my job is to make them feel bad and make them fearful and all of this stuff when it happens. Or you're like, that's part of having basically a retarded midget. Let's call it what it is for a while. You have a retarded midget on your hands. Okay? They're going to run into walls and mess things up. Do I want to make them feel bad for it? Probably not, because they're not doing it on purpose. And there's already cause and effect in the universe. There's repercussions already. You don't need to make up your own on top of that usually. Okay? So in the context with an adult, if you wouldn't do it to a kid, your kid wants to help with cooking and they burn something, and you're like, okay, I'm not going to let them cook anymore. That's a good handling. Now, I'm going to punish them for doing it. Probably not a good handling, because if they weren't trying to do it, like what are you actually achieving other than putting them into fear and uncertainty and all this stuff? Adults aren't different, right? So when you have an adult, they mess up, they do something wrong, whatever, okay? If they're doing it on purpose, there's like justice and there is boundaries and there is, all this stuff we can do for those instances, okay? Now, if it's something where it's like burning in the kitchen, for the kid, and it's like, okay, that person, obviously that's not their intention, they messed up. They need to know they messed up. They need to take responsibility for it for sure. But do I need to punish them? Do I need to put them into fear on top of that? No, that's your own added extra flavor. That's what you want to create in other people if you're doing that. That's your own intention at that point. It's not needed. It's like, you're making oatmeal and you're like, okay, and now let me put arsenic in. Okay, there's no reason that needs to go in the oatmeal. You don't have good intentions for the person who's going to eat that. So the whole fear doubt thing, I like to look at, okay, A, is the goal my goal? If the goal is not my goal, that's probably one of the reasons I'm having issues with it, is it's not actually mine. If I didn't get it from me, if it's not something where like deep down inside, this is what I want to do. This is where I want to go, and it came from me. If it's someone else's, then yeah, it's not going to integrate. Just like if I'm wearing someone else's clothes, like they're not going to fit me the same. I'm going to have problems. And if I make me the problem instead of realizing, oh, this is because it came from someone else and it's not mine, super easy handling, it's solved now. Same thing with the fears and the doubts. If I've got a fear or a doubt and I'm like, whose is this? Is this mine and it's a legitimate me thing, or did someone else give me this? Is someone else causing this in my universe? Now, if someone else is causing this, I cut them off. That's just my handling. I don't have time for that nonsense, right? And here's the thing. I don't even need to handle it with them, because if they're a good person, they wouldn't be doing that. So I don't have the conversation of, you really should stop and I'm going to give you one more chance. No, I don't hang out with assholes. That's an asshole thing to do. It's just cut off. We're done. I don't need to have a conversation about it. I don't need to go into, like, let me make sure they know what they're doing. They know what they're doing. Okay. But the bottom line is I'm going this way. They're not. There's no reason we need to have a talk. I'm just going to keep moving on my journey and block that person out. That's my handling. That often will clean up the fears and the doubts. Okay. Now, if they're mine, here's what I do. First things first, I look at the goal that I have and I figure out, like, who is doing this or who has done this before. So I have my goal. It actually needs to be mine. This is when I have fear or doubt or uncertainty. My goal. Then I find who has done it. Who has done it before? Right? Because if I can see it, I can then start to make it my own. I can be like, okay, that's a real example. I can learn from that. I can start to duplicate that and mimic that. Okay, who has done it? Then I like to look at, why did they do it? What was their purpose? This is important for me, because it's like, okay, somebody achieves a goal, and if they have a completely different purpose than mine, it doesn't mean it's unaligned. And I'm like, okay, we can't follow or learn from this person. It might actually help me clarify my purpose a little bit better. Right? Because ultimately they achieved it. So it's like, okay, what ingredients did they have? What was their recipe? And if that purpose was part of their recipe, I like to look at that and see, okay, is that a good purpose? Is that something that I could get on board with? And that would also help me achieve the similar goal that I have. Fourth thing I do, I look at their stats, right? Like, what did they accomplish statistically that I can measure? Not rumors, not, whatever you see on online blogs. Like, I like to look at, okay, if I want to, for example, Teddy Roosevelt's on my desk here. If I'm like, okay, Teddy is someone that I can emulate and I have a goal that's similar to his, he's someone that did it. Well, why did Teddy do it? Right? Now I go online and I can see all the good and bad things about Teddy Roosevelt and the opinions and the this and the that. I need to look at, what are the statistics? So it's like, okay, well, the guy was a warmonger. Oh, he had wars. Okay, but also, and that's opinion, he won a Nobel Peace Prize. How are you a warmonger who wins a Nobel Peace Prize? That doesn't make sense. Okay, so this helps me filter through some of, like, the nonsense that you hear from others. Like, oh, being wealthy, oh, well, it makes you evil. Good, go find someone who's good. Go find a wealthy person who's not evil, and that will pretty much handle that consideration. You'd be like, oh, I don't need to be evil because that person's not. As an example, right? Now, I like to do this, and then I like to then compare myself to each of these points. And here's the thing, like, I can compare my goal to their goal, right? And the other thing I compare is that I haven't done it yet, they have. I haven't done it yet, they have. To the degree that I've not done it, my realities, opinions, thoughts, viewpoints, operating behaviors are invalid in terms of getting where I want to go, because if they were valid, I would already be there. And I wouldn't have this as a goal, it would be a past achievement. So the fact that I'm not there yet means their opinions and stats and operating bases probably are more valid than mine. So that's a distinct comparison to make, is I've not done it yet. And I share that because when I was brand new at all this goal setting stuff and financial stuff, I would feel very right and very justified in my opinions, which is like the number one sign for me of stupidity. Like, there's nobody more certain than the stupid person. Okay, until they, have the stupid thing happen, then they finally learn. But sometimes that's the thing it takes, is you've got to have the whoopsie go on and then they learn, right? But now that I've had years of this under my belt, I have a healthy open-mindedness to the fact that there's better opinions and better ways than what I'm doing, particularly from those who have done it already. If I've never done something, I am not a self-proclaimed expert that is going to be like, no, because I think blah. I don't know what I think. I've never done it, right? Someone else has. I'm going to look at that. So they've done it. I have not. Why did they do it? I compare their purposes and my purposes. Why do I want to do it? Early on, I wanted to become financially independent because I grew up poor, right? So that's why I did it. I was like, I don't want to be poor. I don't want to work at a job I hate, all these types of things. When I started studying the Andrew Carnegies of the world, he wanted to become wealthy to help. He believed his wealth was a sacred trust for the betterment of mankind. A little bit different of a purpose there, wouldn't you say? I don't want to be poor or work at jobs I don't like versus I want to help others. So I realized at that point, my purpose was off. When I compared my purpose with someone else's that was doing well in the space I wanted and I could emulate them in my life and feel good about it, I realized that I needed a bigger and better purpose than the one I had. Okay, and it can't even just be so my kids can go to college or so I provide security for my family. That's such a small, there's 8 billion people in the world. If your goal is centered around 4 of you, that's not very big. That's not a very big impact. It's like I helped and benefited the lives of 4 people. There's so many more people out there that need help. So if Carnegie's goal, for example, was just helping his wife, and if he had kids, I don't even know if he did, but just that, and it's like just the 2 of us or just the 3 or 4 of us, I don't think he would have been the father of modern day philanthropy. I don't think he would have had the positive impact he had. He would have just had kids that went to college and lived mediocre lives without too many problems in their childhoods. He wouldn't be known for very much. Hey, what's up? Jerry here. I just wanted to give you another reminder. Grab my book, Blueprint to Financial Freedom. It's going to be one of the best books you have ever read on finance. I can promise you that. You're going to love it. It's also a free offer. So if you go to jerryfetta.com/B2F promo, you can get that now. Right? So who has done it? Why did they do it? Then I get into the stats. Okay. Now, this is looking at my stats. What have I accomplished? Which notches do I have in my belt? Okay, and I compare it to those that are already where I want to be at. Okay, and at the bottom of this, I have to determine, like, there's only 2 ways to go here. I am going to change me to mirror more of what I'm seeing here. Someone that's already successful, someone that's already wealthy. I'm going to change me to mirror more of what they're like. Because I believe what they're doing is better than what I'm doing. One route I can go. The other route is I am going to continue my game the way I'm doing it, and I'm not going to support or adopt what they're using. Okay, I'm going to stay in my current position with my current beliefs and actions. And here's the thing though. There is a group of people, just like, I picked Teddy. There's the anti-Teddy over here, someone else who is more like the way I currently think or have thought before, the activities I currently do, the purposes I currently have. So there is someone in the world whose goal was to become financially independent because they didn't want to be poor, that didn't want to work at a job they didn't like, that had all these more self-centered, right, small thinking. You could find the equivalent of that. And if you were to look at that person, you would probably have to confront, do I want to be more like them, or I want to be more like this person that's more on my idealistic side? I'm picking a side here. Like, don't mix this up at all. I'm picking a side. And this is the part I think, we really have a problem within our society, is this idea of comparison. Okay, we hear stuff like with comparing to those who are ahead of us. It's like, don't compare with others because it steals your joy. I think that's BS. I honestly do. I think that it's hypocritical. Because what I see, those who are like, I don't compare myself with those who are better than me because it steals my joy. I watch those same people compare themselves with people who are worse than them to justify where they're at today. So they would never be like, I'm going to compare myself with Teddy Roosevelt, for example, because they would immediately feel bad. They're like, oh, Teddy's done so much, I've done so little. So then they're like, oh, comparison's a thief of joy, don't use it. But then they're like, well, at least I'm not as bad as so-and-so, or at least my kids aren't as bad as their kids, or at least my finances aren't as bad as that person's finances. And they immediately use comparison to justify their own acceptance of where they're at today. And I think if you're goal-oriented and you're in a feeling of doubt or fear that's actually yours, it's probably because it's true. If I go through this exercise, let's just keep using Teddy as the example because he's right there on my desk. If I go through this exercise and I come out and I'm like, I'm every bit as good as Teddy. I've accomplished everything Teddy accomplished and more. And I have the same stats. I've got better stats. I've got the same purposes. I've got better purposes and all this stuff. and I come out of that and I'm still doubtful about my goals, it's because I'm comparing myself to the wrong person at that point. Teddy is something I've already accomplished in that scenario. So I would actually need someone bigger. Where am I trying to go? And I need to find someone bigger and compare myself to them. And if I constantly compare myself to someone bigger, there will always be where I'm at today and where they are, which is where I want to be at tomorrow. And that difference is called progress. That difference is called the journey. That difference is called improving. So if I'm trying to avoid confronting that someone else is in a better position than I am compared to me today, what I'm really doing is I'm trying to avoid having goals. I don't want anything bigger in the future. I don't want to look at anybody that's doing better than I am because it makes me realize that where I'm at today isn't good compared to where I'd like to be. And you've only got two options. You say, okay, yeah, I need to work on myself. I need to work on my finances. I need to work on my business, whatever it might be. And then you confront the work and you pick up a shovel and you start digging. Or you look at it and you're like, I really don't want to have to do that work. Okay, so I'm not going to look. I'm not going to look at the goal. I'm not going to look at anybody that's accomplished the goal. I'm not going to idealize none of that. Instead, I'm going to look at everybody that I've surpassed and remind myself how much better I am than them. That's not how you achieve goals. Okay, so in summary, when I have doubts, when I have fears, if you've experienced the same, number one, is the goal even yours? The thing you're worried about or in regards to, is that even your goal? If it's not, find something that is. A lot of those problems go away. If it is your goal, is the doubt and fear yours, or did someone put that in your space? Someone put that in your space, get rid of that person. Doesn't matter how big the boogeyman is that they're creating, get rid of them. If it happens, whatever the thing is you're afraid of, it happens. But at least until then, you can make progress. Right? But you don't want someone that intentionally has the idea of putting you in fear in your space, whether that's a friend, a family member, a colleague, a client, an acquaintance at the gym. It doesn't matter. You don't want to hang out with people like that. Those aren't good people. Those aren't your people. Okay? So if it's your goal and it's truly your fear or doubt, I want you to realize by definition of doubt, you're at a point of hesitation, you're uncertain, right? You're worried about something, and it's probably true. It's probably true. If you go compare yourself on all the stuff I just did, here's where I'm at, here's where I want to be, that's someone who's already been where I want to be. Here's everything about them, why they got there, how they got there, their stats, their lives, the whole picture, and I compare myself to that, I am factually inadequate in comparison, or I would be there today. And I've got to be okay with that. Like, okay, I'm not there yet. That's why I'm worried. Good. So what are the things I need to handle to get there? What's the work I need to do? Right? And do I really want to be there? That's what it comes down to, is am I really willing to put the work in to be there? If I'm really willing to put the work in to be there, then I'm going to do the work. If I'm not willing to, then I need to look at, is the goal really a goal that I want? Which goes back to that first step. Is this really my goal? Okay, so I hope that framework helps you. This is something that I actually use. This is something that's helped me many times over. And realize, anytime you're reaching for something big, you're going to have these doubts and fears pop up, because it's true. It's like you've not been there before. There's a lot of unknown. And that's why it's good to find these people in life that have been there already and made it out the other end. And you can start to use that as a point of stability and comparison to get there yourself. Okay, hope that helps. Like, subscribe, comment below if you have any questions or thoughts on this. I'll see you next time. Hey, this is Fetta here. I want to thank you for watching my video, watching my content. I hope you enjoyed it. If you would like to learn more about the blueprint to financial freedom and how you can achieve passive income that exceeds your savings, your expenses, your taxes, your generosity, and build wealth like the top 1%, I want to encourage you, grab a copy of my book, The Blueprint to Financial Freedom. You can go to jerryfetta.com/B2F promo, or you can click the link in the description of the video here. The copy is free. You cover your shipping. We'll send the book out to you, and we'll send you an email with a bunch of great bonus material also for free. Get the book, subscribe to the channel. I'll see you on my next content.